You're listening to the My Simplified Life podcast, and this is episode number 276. Welcome to the My Simplified Life podcast, a place where you will learn that your past and even your present don't define your future. Regardless of what stage of life you're in, I want you to feel inspired and encouraged to pursue your dreams, simplify your life, and start taking action. I'm your host, Michelle Glogovac, author of How to Get On Podcasts, the podcast matchmaker, and CEO and founder of the MLG Collective. I'm excited to share the stories and life lessons of changemakers and authors with you while taking you on my own journey. This is My Simplified Life. Hey friends, welcome back to another episode. I'm your host, Michelle Glogovac, and today we're having some fun with my guest, Susan Liu. She is the author of The Manicurist Daughter, which was amazing. I have it in audiobook, digital, and hardback, so you know it's a good book. She is a barrel of laughs, but also one of the most serious people ever. So get ready for a great conversation because we laughed, we got serious, we did all of the emotions while enjoying our yogi tea. We had a lot in common, and I cannot wait to meet Susan in person. Hi, Susan.
Hi.
We've already had too much fun, and yet we are only now recording. So we're sorry to everybody who's just tuning in.
This is us on decaf tea, Yogi.
Yeah, shout out to Yogi. If you'd like to sponsor the podcast, reach out.
I read all your affirmations.
Oh my gosh, you're going to have so much fun. Can you introduce yourself to everyone, please, before we go down the next path?
Sure. Hey, everyone. I'm Susan Liu. I'm a Vietnamese-American storyteller on intergenerational healing. I'm a playwright. I'm a performer. I'm an activist, and I'm an author. I just came out with my memoir, The Manicurist Daughter.
I love it. And I feel like you should throw comedian in there too.
I'm a failed stand-up comedian that actually just went to solo performance because I thought hecklers wouldn't be at the theater.
I would totally, I'm one of those hecklers.
Why?
No, it'd be like a funny one.
They're not funny. We actually are running scripts. We're reading a script from our brain and performing. You're like throwing us off the thing. Don't center yourself, Michelle. Like if you want to be on stage, be on stage. Go own that space, girl. Go.
I would love to. That's why I volunteered to MC at like the kids gala auction. I was like, let me do it. I will. And then I heckle.
Okay,
so more of like the heckler who's on stage, not from the peanut gallery. Unless I'm being spoken to.
Yeah, you're roasting people. You're like, hey, assistant principal, I see you.
Yes. Yeah. What y'all parents didn't get out last night, did you? Because y'all are drunk and you need to settle down or spend money.
Who needs more budget for mental health counseling? Hey, say hey.
We should tag team it next time.
Oh my God, I'm ready for it. You're in San Jose. I can totally fly down.
Oh, this should just be our new business.
Oh my God. Available to MC. And we also do eulogies.
We totally, that would be good.
Yeah.
That would be excellent.
I think I should definitely MC funerals.
They're one of my favorite things. I actually did one of my first episodes was how much I love funerals because you get to learn so much and more of the memorial service, not the funeral part.
Yeah. Celebration of life. I put the fun in funeral.
Yes.
Can you tell I write about grief?
I love it. It's so good. It's like your book because there were parts where I was laughing, I was crying. I was like, it was an emotional roller coaster that I thoroughly enjoyed. I loved it. I love you.
Like what was resonating for you?
Honestly, all of it from hearing what your mom did. And I loved that you took it upon yourself. You wanted to know what her life was like, what brought her to where she was in wanting this surgery, in putting herself through this, and you wouldn't stop no matter what your family said. I loved your tenacity in that, but then finding out her story and what a complete badass your mom was, that she was a fighter, that she was an asker, that she was doing this lottery stuff. I was like, yes, gamble it, take that money, figure it out. And she just kept going. It was just such a happy kind of conclusion that you come to.
Yeah.
That I loved it. And I loved how your parents came. I'm just going to retell the whole story here, but how they came to America and they made something for themselves. And that you as a child, you're like, we got to have this. What was it, $1,000 day? Or
Yeah.
You were like, yeah, let's have this $1,000 day. I want to have it. And
At
then
the
you
nail
had it.
salon. Yeah.
Yes. And then it was like, yep, no, we got to have more of it. And oh, that takes more work. And
Yeah. Yeah. And to catch listeners up, like, it's not just knowing my mother, it's knowing my dead mother, right? So she
yes.
dies from a botched tummy tuck when I'm 11 years old. She's 38. It was a negligent plastic surgeon. He was on probation, had lawsuits against him, no medical malpractice insurance, and waits 14 minutes before he makes a 911 call.
And she could have just been transported like 3 minutes away.
Yeah, totally. So it was a very unfortunate way how she died. And I say in my memoir, she died again when my family never spoke about her ever again. And for the next 2, now 3 decades, we've never spoken about her life or how she died. And so it's not just to know my parents, right? It's also, if I want to go on this journey to become a mother, how do I do that if I don't even know her, right? And if something goes wrong, who do I call? Right? So I was on this journey to know her, but there was so much shame and silence in my own family where we couldn't speak about it, and I could never get any closure about it, that first I go on this quest to avenge my mother's death and make the plastic surgeon's life hell. I find out before my big moment to humiliate him, I found out he dies. My back is up against the wall. I'm like, what do you do? Like, how do you fight? How do you have an enemy if your enemy is dead? Right? And then eventually I realized, like, oh my God, I still need the very thing that my family, my living family, can't give me. Right? And that's why the first line in the book is, everyone knows the tragedy of the dead, but let's talk about the tragedy of the living. Right? Like, so often it's like, we want full house family, but the truth is family units are pretty dysfunctional, right? Because there's so much inherited trauma. People really don't have the tools on how to deal with it. And what I didn't realize until I became a mother is actually, this is everyone's best. This is what everyone's best looks like, because we're all dealing with our own demons. And so I think the core part of my work is like, how do we experience intergenerational healing? How do we love our family and also still love ourselves at the same time? Because sometimes it's just loving them and not loving us, right?
Right.
Or it's loving us and not loving them. There's estrangement, there's distance, there's extremes. But like, how do we have harmony? How do we try when people just don't have the capacity?
We've just gone so deep.
Girl, you got to get some scuba gear to go where I'm at.
I love it. Oh, yeah, you're just amazing. And going back through the book, I'm thinking about all of the things that you also did and how you were on this quest, not only to find her, but to find yourself.
Oh my God.
And to really figure out, what is it you want? What do you want to do? Who are you?
Yeah.
It was all of this. And there were some moments where I'm like, wake up, stop doing that. Stop it. And I know your family did the same thing. I'm like, come on, pull through. I don't know what's going to happen with you.
Yeah. I mean, I remember I always read the first chapter at a lot of my readings, and there's this one line. It was like, I was disappointed with the adult I became. You know, like my entire life, I was this overachiever. I felt like I was groomed to be a leader and do something great. And then I find myself just working as a contractor at a very large tech company in Seattle, and kind of just being like, this is life. Like, this is just like, it's not the company. It was more like, I felt like my talents weren't being used. I felt like I didn't feel alive in my own life. And I did feel very alive when I was on stage as a stand-up comedian. And things were going great for a year. Like, within a year, I was headlining at the Purple Onion. I was at Caroline's on Broadway. Like, it was like things were happening for me until I get super heckled at this charity comedy show. So heckled, I'm whispering jokes into the microphone. My siblings, who usually make fun of me a lot, just buy me a drink. Like, it was so bad that night. And I walk away from the microphone for 3 years. And it all comes to a head because I was like, who am I kidding? I'm not actually really funny. And it all comes to a head when I get married and my dad and aunts are like, have babies, have babies, have babies. You're not getting any younger. Come on, come on, come on. And I'm just like, I feel like a coward in my own life. How can you tell your kid be what you want in life if I actually did it myself, right? Like I knew my truth. And one of my big values is integrity. And I was like, I don't have integrity in my own life, And I was like, I'm going to be a tiger mom and project onto my kid and be like, we can afford drama camp. Why are you not the star? Right? Why are you not doing all these things that I always wanted to do, that I had to fight for, that I had to get scholarships for, that I had to forge my parents' signature for, right? Like, try harder. Like I knew I would do that to my kid. And so I needed to really deal with all my own baggage before even pulling out my IUD.
And that is so giving of you, because think about
you don't think it's kind of dramatic?
No, I love it, because I think that there's so many people who don't even think that way and they just have the kids. And they're selfish about it. It's like, it doesn't matter. So I don't need to deal with my own stuff and my baggage. I'm just going to have a kid, and yeah, I will project it, and then you project it on your kids.
I don't think it's necessarily selfish. I think like it's just like, do you remember that point in your 20s where everyone around you just started getting married? Or like in your 30s when everyone around you started having babies. And it's just like you just like kind of get carried with this wave of, this is the time you do this in your life. And you don't want to be behind.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if it's selfishness as much as you just think that this is the time because everyone else is doing it. Also, it is easier to get pregnant when you're younger.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Yes, for sure. But to be able to also take a step back, it's mature too, to take a step back and to realize that if I don't take care of myself in this way before I have children, I will end up being this type of mom. And that is not the type of mom I want to be.
Totally. And you know what? Like, I got my wiggles out. And performed my one-woman show 60 times to 7,000 people in 1 year.
Let's talk about your one-woman show.
Okay.
Share with everybody what it was about, what it was called.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay, wait, can I just tell everybody I'm an accidental artist. I don't have an MFA in theater or creative writing. I have an MBA. Okay. So it's like so much debt to do art. Okay. So I just want to put that there because I always felt like I was behind. Like I ended up going to Harvard and I always wanted to perform. And lo and behold, my classmates have Screen Actors Guild membership cards. Like they are professional actors. And I was like, oh, I'm too late, Or I tried out for this improv team and I was 30 seconds into the audition and they escorted me out of the room. It's called On Thin Ice. It's at Harvard. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm too late. Like everyone had already been doing this for so long. I am too late. And so to find myself in my 30s going back onto stage and just trying to get the wiggles out with performance. Like my husband and I made a deal. We said, okay, you're going to do mountaineering. I'm going to do performance for 2 years. And at the 2-year mark, because we're both kind of on the fence about having kids, and I was like, this is super expensive and bad for the environment and all this stuff. If we're on the fence and have kids, like let's do the 2 years of whatever we need to do and let's come back and see how we feel, like I didn't want to regret not having a kid and feel like I'm missing out on this big life experience. But also if I could just be the kooky aunt, I just think it would be cheaper, like it would just be less stressful. And so there was a part of me that just felt like this was my time and this was my container. And I go to this solo performance class and the first day of class, they said, tell a 5-minute story. And I was like, okay, I want to avenge my mother's death. So I went to look for her killer. And everyone is looking at me the F, like what, and I'm surrounded by all women in their 60s and 70s. And there's just like me, this like Asian girl who's 30 and being like, yeah, you've never done that. And that's all I tell this story of how I tracked him down and found out he's dead. And we continue on with the rest of the semester and I never come back to the show ever again. Afterwards, I try out for an improv team. I get on it. I was like, oh my God, it's called the Nightmare Society. At least I'm like now on stage, but held by other people on stage. It's like very cool, right? And then someone was like, oh, you can still sign up for the solo festival for 25 minutes. Like, do you want to do it? And I was like, cool, I'm just going to do this 25-minute thing. I'm going to do Andy Kaufman, weird, absurdist stuff. I'm going to wear my rainbow poncho. The light's going to be on me. I'm going to touch the hammer. Am I here to kill you? Or am I not? I'm meditating. Then I'm going to go feed you all raisins in scene. Like that was the show. That was this 10-minute concept that I was going to make 25 minutes. Afterwards, I'd clap, clap, clap to myself. And then I'd go take out my IUD. Like I just was like, this is my type A checklist to get to motherhood, right? I go to a workshop 2 weeks before a show date, and I'm working with a coach, and I'm telling her about my absurdist ideas. And then she was like, can we go back to the avenge my mom's death thing? She's like, how'd you get into this? And I told her that story. And she was like, that seems really important to you. Like, maybe we should explore that for this show. I was like, explore that? Dirty laundry, sadness, grief. Nobody wants to talk about that, But I'm telling her this, I'm like crying, dry heaving. She's like, seems pretty important to you, 2 weeks before show, I get 50 Post-it notes out. I start mapping it out. And I want to tell this journey of how long I've just been shamed and silenced to not knowing my mom, and how angry I've been. So I just project all that anger to the doctor, and then I find out he's dead. Like it's this 25-minute thing. I don't know what I'm doing. I pull my friend in, and I'm like, hey, Charles, I don't know anything about lighting. Can you like just set some cues? Like this is like a few days before the show. Like I don't know what I'm doing. Okay. This is the first show. I keep iterating it. Wait, I got to tell you though, like afterwards, I felt so out of body to be on stage, and I'm playing all my family characters. And I go up to my husband afterwards. I was like, Marvin, what do you think of the show? And he's like, babe, you cried like 90% of the time. And I was like, was that good? Was that and then a friend comes up to me, and he was like, hey, this is like really raw theater. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, but I just was left with this question, like, who is your mom? Because the only time we saw her was little kid Susan was holding her mom's hand in the coma, just asking for her mom to come back. And I said, yeah, I wish I knew. So it sends me on this journey to keep asking questions about my mom. And every time I learn something new, I put it in the next show. And the 5th show becomes 140 pounds, How Beauty Killed My Mother. I play 15 characters in 65 minutes. It's the entire arc of Susan to know her mother and actually understand her family, right? Because they can't give her what she needs. You see spirit channeling. You see Spice Girls. You see me playing Feliz Navidad. You see my parents' boat escape from Vietnam. You see all parts of me, and all I have is a chair. After that debuted in February of 2019, a sold-out run, I was like, oof, I want to do a national tour, and I was dragging my feet on signing a lot of contracts because I was scared that I wouldn't pull off another sold-out show. The perfectionist in me was scared no one would show up. Maybe I'd lose money. What was I going to do? And then I found out I was pregnant. And then that sent the time constraint. The tour had to happen in the 2nd trimester, right? Like I heard first trimester is pretty bad. 3rd trimester, I'm going to be a balloon. Here we go. And then it turned into a 5-city tour. Like at first it was 5 cities because I was like, oh, I want to do 10 because 10 just sounds like a good number. It's arbitrary. And then I was actually having a lot of stress from it. My friend was like, just do 5. And I was like, okay. But I like secretly was like, no, girl, Danielle, I'm going to do 10, girl. I'm going to do it. And it just started making waves. And at the New York premiere, a literary agent was sitting in the audience. Thank God I didn't know. I would have lost my shit. And then it was a 5-city, and it just kept growing, and people started contacting me and figuring out like they could host me here or whatever. And it grew to 10. I come back to Seattle, and then I'm 8.5 months pregnant, and I have the sequel over 140 pounds. Because I am over 140 pounds. Hella over 140
Same,
pounds.
friend, same.
But it was amazing because it was authentically me. It's sad, it's funny, it's cathartic, and everyone's on this journey with me. And before, I just did it for me. And then at the end of the show, I look up and then I see that we're doing it for we. Because we all have trauma. We all have these moments of regret. We all wish we could feel closer to our families. And I see that when I infuse humor in the way that I did, it keeps your butt in the seat when it gets really uncomfortable, right?
So
because
true.
It's a roller coaster. And I create moments for you to breathe and then for you to keep going deep with me. Right? It's like, I don't really know how to scuba dive, but pretend I did. Maybe you keep training yourself to go a little bit deeper and a little bit deeper to tolerate the demands on your body, right? And what I say in my book several times is when we feel, we heal. And I want you to feel the duality of life, of laughter and joy and tragedy and sadness. I want you to feel the extremities, and so that we can sit together in that valley and know that we can choose which way we're going to go, but we're going to go together. I do that in my show. It was me. I did not feel like I was a coward in my life. I felt like this is what I'm born to do, because Michelle, when I'm on stage, I feel like that's where I'm supposed to be. I feel in total service, and I am so deeply connected with my audience, and it's so sacred and intimate. And so that was like a really big challenge when it was like, great, do it for a book. And I'm like, ooh, you cannot hide on 300 pages that are single spaced. You cannot hide. But I can also add so much more color and texture. And you can taste every single dish that my family is trying to soothe me with and terrorize me with.
It's so true.
There.
Mm-hmm. You did an amazing job. Because I have read, so I'm reading a lot of books. And so yours, I think I've read like 3 or 4 since reading yours. And I can literally see and feel and remember every part, from them feeding you and you have to come sit down and you're going to sit down, you're going to eat some more, to the spirits and who's coming, and that your dad was channeling them, and then you get woken up in the middle of the night. And like, I remember all of this. And to me, knowing that I can remember all of that, it's a beautifully written book, and it takes you on this roller coaster. Because like I said, I was laughing, I was crying, I was all of the things, and you kept me. I'm like, I want to know more. What's going to happen? Do you find out who she is? And, to get through, and then for you to find people who were there that day, who want to help you, who do help you, connect all of the dots, and then for the way you connected with your dad.
Yeah.
I was like, it's one of those times where you read about him. And I just was talking to another person who wrote a memoir about her father, who had spent time in World War II, and how he came back a different man. And yet when you then have these conversations to get to know the man, know your dad, and to hear what he'd been through and what he was trying to do, it just makes him into a new person for you and for the reader, that I fell in love with him. I'm like, he truly wants the best for you. And it was just, it made me so happy. And like, I was a part of your family.
You're Vietnamese, Michelle.
I am. You can see it.
Yeah. I mean, isn't that it? Like parent-child relationships, like we want the approval of them. We want to be seen from them. But that's the evolution when child becomes parent, when child becomes adult. And then you can see your parent not as a peer, but as a human.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And to be like, oh shit, they didn't know everything. That is what their best look like. They had their own constraints that they were working with. How do I not have any more anger here, but compassion for him and forgiveness for both of us for our behavior?
Yeah. I feel that from personal experience as well. I totally feel that and understand that. And it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of therapy.
Takes a lot of work, right? To depersonalize it.
Mm-hmm.
And to really let that go. Really let it go. Because in a way we hold on to it because we think if we keep remembering this narrative as it was, then this is how we protect ourselves because at least we knew how it turned out. If now you're going to ask me to change my narrative, I'm not sure what it's going to look like. And that's scary. But if we can invite that possibility of a 2-degree shift where we can turn, and consider it in a slightly new way with a form of slight new curiosity, our reality can change. The things that trigger us and grip us can slowly release its grasp. For me right now, I'm working on, I don't have to keep proving my worth. That doesn't make me proving it to you every time doesn't make me lovable. Mm-hmm. We're actually all inherently lovable and I don't have to keep proving it. But now that actually what's really great is neuro-linguistic programming. That shit is banging. But like it helps me see it in a new light, and it's actually crazy because once I see it now in my daily life, I have this inclination to behave a certain way and I'm like, oh, that's actually coming from proving my worth, isn't it? Huh. Well, I don't need to do that anymore. Okay. I do not need to do that anymore. And it's so freeing.
I was going to say it's powerful.
Previous burden. Yeah, because that's how the ego only knew how to survive. And now I'm like, oh, I don't need to do that with my dad. Don't need to do that with my husband or all of my kids' mommy friends. Do not need to do it. Do not need to do it.
I wish we were mommy friends.
I think we are.
We are now, yeah. But I wish that I saw you at pickup.
We go way back. We've been together since 42 minutes ago.
Yeah, 43, but who's counting? You're so fun. I love that. I feel like with you, there's the fun. It's exactly your one woman show. The fun aspect of you bringing us in, and then you get very serious, and you're like, oh shit, I better pay attention now. Susan's gonna drop something big. And we're back.
Yeah, oh my God. The other day, my kid's friend's mom was like, you're holding a lot of eye contact with me right now, and I kind of makes me nervous. It feels like you're staring at my soul. I was trying to sell a book out of my trunk, and I was like, I just kind of just continued the eye contact because you didn't say don't do it. I was like, maybe we should look at each other's souls more. And I gotta tell you, my entire life, since I can still remember it, maybe when I was in 7th grade, I have gotten this line fed to me so many times that it's very beautiful now, looking back on it. But at the time, I thought it was weird. They're like, you're really weird, but in a good way. What am I supposed to do with that?
But at least they bring the in a good way.
Right. But they would always say that exact phrase. And I've maybe 30 times now in my life where I'm like, okay, universe, why didn't you use a different word than weird? But okay.
Unique.
No, it could be you're a bright old soul that resonates with me because you tap into my inner vulnerabilities and insecurities, but in a good way. I just wanted all of that parenthetical instead of you're really weird, but in a good way.
Yeah, I would go with the first way. That's how I feel about you. I don't feel that you're weird.
Takes one to know one, Michelle.
The word weird has a bad connotation these days anyway.
Yeah. Well, I
don't want to be told we're weird.
Portland was trying to bring it back. It was keep Portland weird. Yeah. And that means pure, right?
Yeah. 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 And now it's used in a different way after this year. So don't be weird. As you hold up your mug. I love it.
My mug is a goddess mug, so it has breasts, a large tummy, a butt, and a little tramp stamp from the potter.
So if anybody's listening and not viewing, you need to go head over to YouTube or Spotify to see all of this.
Oh my God, this is going to be on video.
Oh yeah.
Everyone's going to see that we're twinning.
Yes.
Like from like 4 inches down, like we look like,
we do.
Yeah, like our one half of us look exactly the same, and the other half, you're going to find out that I'm not white.
And I'm not Asian.
Yeah. Is that the name of our joint memoir?
We should totally. It'll be our 2-woman show.
Yeah,
we are going to go on the road.
Yeah, it would be so funny if like we like just like our hands were glued together though, like and our feet. 1 foot, 1 hand. Like we're just like a cutout of each other. We can come together and then open up. Like we could do really cool dancing. We're like Siamese twins.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. We really are. Everybody, yes, this is my twin. We didn't know it until 46 minutes ago, but now we're forever friends, and I love it. I know.
We might hang out in San Jose. Is awesome.
Yeah, you should. Yeah. We're going to meet in the new year.
I know.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm so excited. What are you working on now?
My health. I was feeling a lot of pressure to answer the question, what are we working on now? And so I was like, oh, I've got a couple of concepts. And I was like, is this a 60-minute comedy special? Because I want to face my fears around comedy, right? Because solo performance is comedy, but it's not comedy. You know, it's different. And I really admire stand-up comedians. So I was like, is it that? Is it my another one-woman show? Is it another book? So I wasn't sure. And I was like feeling, oh, I got to have something to say to people. I have 5 TV show concepts that I've been like writing about over and over again. And when I meet people in the film and TV space, it's really exciting to me. So I know that there's a pull there, but I just really don't know how. I'm trying to tell my rational or my conscious mind that like same thing with theater, same thing with book. I didn't know how.
Mm-hmm.
And after I did the thing, I realized how low the probability of success was. Right? I'm always kind of like, you know what? Good job, Susan. You naive. Good job for being naive. Right? Because if I really truly knew how many authors query their agents, 50 to 100 emails where you're like not getting a response or like they pass, like if I knew how much failure was going to be ahead of me, or potentially ahead of me, because remember, my agent just kind of popped out of thin air, right? Which was kind of like golden ticket, Willy Wonka kind of moment for me, which is also kind of like my mom and the lottery operation she ran. So what Michelle was referring to is that my family grew up with very little money, and both my mom and dad didn't finish 9th grade in rural Mekong Delta. And so when my mom and dad sees all these people around them escaping on the boat as boat people, they're like, we don't have the money to do that. And my mom's like, okay, I'm going to start an underground lottery operation. I'm going to run it. People around me are going to also sell tickets. And I'm going to win at my own game 3 times by matching people's numbers, by getting information from dreams. And she just wins it 3 times, which is crazy. And maybe her life in Vietnam maybe could have been okay, maybe, but not really under communist rule at that time, right? Like they wouldn't let people really keep their money. And that's how she starts to escape and buys the tickets, these one-way tickets. And she gets foiled 5 times. And it's this 6th attempt. Her, my dad, my 2 brothers, like make it, right? Even though she knew everyone had a 50% chance of getting capsized, raped and killed by Thai pirates, like so much danger, getting caught and having to go into labor camps. Like she still went for it. And my dad was pretty skeptical and reluctant, but he was like, okay. Right? The probability for that to happen, the probability for us to actually make it to America, and then somehow the one who's born in America, me, Susan, and I say in the book, I'm the one with USA in my name. It was such hilarious. A good one. That was good, right?
Was, yeah.
Somehow I watched Legally Blonde and get inspired to apply to Harvard, which I never thought of doing, and get in. Okay, the odds of that was nutso my gutso. And then the odds of eventually getting a book deal with the top 5 publisher and being able to share my story out there to the world. This year, the book was on the best of the year book list for NPR and the Smithsonian.
Big deal.
I never felt more American. You know what I mean? Like, I was just like, holy shit, these big brands and institutions that mean so much, that is so American, was like, yeah, Susan's book's cool. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm cool. Am I weird, but in a good way? Because I'll take that.
Such a good way. Yeah.
Yeah, like the odds of all of these hurdles my mom had to leap over and I had to leap over to get to here, so that I can tell you, hey, that person that's holding your feet or holding your hands in the nail salon, they're multifaceted. They actually could be very complex. And let me tell you everything that's going down when you're not there, or what they're saying in Vietnamese. Because guess what? They're not talking about you. They're talking about their rich, interesting lives. And for me to be able to share one type of story about the Vietnamese refugee experience and tell you how bad we wanted to earn $1,000 in that day so we could go to the most American restaurant in the entire world, Sizzler. What a joy that I get to share and get to live by being a storyteller on intergenerational healing. Because I'm still doing the work. You know, I'm still doing it with my kiddo. I'm still doing it with my family and my siblings. And I'm still doing it with myself. So earlier you said, what am I working on right now? I said, I'm working on my health. I've had this rash for 10 weeks now. Like, I've gone to a rheumatologist, dermatologist, Chinese herbal dermatologist, acupuncturist, primary care provider, Zoom care. Like, I've gone to so many people and they're like, well, I don't know. I am reading You Can Heal Your Life right now by Louise Hayes. I eat bee pollen. I got 12 vials of blood drawn. Like, I'm just like, I don't know what's going on. And you know, the woo-woo hippy-dippy answer is, I think my body is forcing me to focus internally and focus on myself and care for myself. Like, I started doing like affirmations related to that, and also moisturizing a lot. And like, I'm slightly getting better, but there's a lot of question marks with the medical providers, right? And I've been trying to just navigate the healthcare system. I think part of it is really related to my hang up around having to prove myself to people, right? And I've had a great year as a debut author. And my honest truth is, I haven't really celebrated that or relished in that, because I was like, but I wasn't long listed for that or that or that. And guess what? What's enough, Michelle?
Yeah. I'm the same way. What's next? Okay.
What's
I wrote
enough?
A book. Now what?
Right. But see, next? But what's stemming from that, right? Which is, for me anyways, it's, that wasn't enough. I have to keep proving that I'm enough. And so I'm just really, honestly, Michelle, I'm just looking at all of that right now and sitting with it. Because if I don't get that on lockdown, I'm not the best mom I wish I could be. I'm not. I'm tired, and my family sees that tiredness and that irritability, right? Like, that's not the best me. So I really got to get that on lockdown, because also I can come back to my work with that purity, that weirdness, right? Like, without trying to prove, like, but really it's about the essence of the work again. I haven't, like, after my editor greenlit the manuscript, it's been kind of 2 years since I've done something truly creative. And it terrifies me. I've got a residency for myself planned in July. And I think I'm going to write this next show called 8 Pounds, 8 Ounces. And I'm going to write it in 3 ways. I'm going to write it as a TV show, a stand-up comedy special, and as a one-woman show. I'm going to quick write it, just like try to force myself to produce quickly. The last time I was at Hedgebrook was, I was there for 10 days and I wrote 54,000 words in 10 days. It's a lot, people.
Yeah, it is.
And I finished my first draft there. And guess what? You can't have a final draft without a first draft. You can't. Because the perfectionist mind thinks you only have one draft, actually, right? And so Hedgebrook is a very special place. They have radical generosity there, where they feed you. You go there for free. And then they hope you pay back somehow to the other women writers along the way, right? And I love this organization very much. And I'm going to be very curious what I can do in 5 days. And that's happening in July, so we'll see. I'm also hitting the speaking circuit right now. So I've got a couple of talks. One's called like, heal the past, own the future, like, but I love being with people. I love being on stage. I love inspiring. So I'm doing that. I have my podcast, Model Minority Moms, and I'm just trying to create core memories with my kiddo.
You're amazing. You just created core memory with me. I'm so happy.
Which part?
All of it. I'm so happy. You're not weird. I think you were just so unique and amazing and deep. And I love your comedy. I love your seriousness. I love that you're sharing yourself with all of us and how we can all learn from you as an example, because I think we all do need it, myself included. So I appreciate you so much. Thank you.
Thanks.
Where can everybody find you?
I'm on the Instagram. Follow me there, but don't follow me home at Susan Liu, Lieu. Sounds like you. Go to my website, susanliu.me. You can stream 140 pounds from that. Watch my TEDx talk, How to Make Peace with Your Belly Fat, and subscribe to my very honest, no bullshit, inspirational newsletter called Yours, Susan. Oh, also, I have a chocolate company.
Oh, yeah. We need to. Yeah. What's that called?
It's called Sokola Chocolatier. Part of the origin story is in the memoir, but my sister and I started it when we were in high school. We have a storefront actually in the San Francisco airport, Terminal 3, like an E6. Like an E6.
I love it.
So you can go there. We ship nationwide. They're like, are you online? I'm like, who's not online? Why do we have to say it? Are we on the World Wide Web? Yes, we are. Anyways, so sometimes you can actually find me at the shop and I'll be selling chocolates because,
I love it.
Why not?
I love it. You are amazing. I am so happy we're now friends. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Susan's story is so incredible. I cannot believe the journey she went through to find out her mother's story, but how important it was because it's her story as well. It is such a big part of her and her family. And I'm so glad that she didn't let anything stop her from finding out what the truth was, to figuring out who her mom is, because ultimately it allowed Susan to figure out who she is. And she's an incredible person. I'm so grateful that we've connected and we've become friends. I encourage you to go read The Manicurist Daughter. Listen to it because the audio is amazing too. But go listen and discover yourself. Discover what parts of your story you're still looking for when it comes to your family and it comes to completing who you are, because it is so worth it. I'm so grateful that Susan shared herself, her story, and her mother with all of us.